In a world where most people watch movies and then forget about them, these brave heroes join forces to watch them again and then talk about them. Join them in their epic journey as they go back in time, a decade and beyond, to revisit and break down films from a vast array of genres. Do these movies hold up over time? Are they classics? Find out on Retro Movie Roundtable. Starring your hosts, Bryan Frye, Chad Robinson, Dustin Melbardis, Nathan Lutz, and Russell Guest. Coming now to headphones in your ears.
Welcome, all you lords, ladies, and knights, to the Retro Movie Roundtable. Welcome to the show where we watch movies and then talk about them. I'm your host, Russell Guest, and joining me today are all of the hosts of the Retro Movie Roundtable, just about anyway. We have Dustin Melbardis from deep in the heart of Texas. How you doing, sir?
Hi there. Happy year-end review time.
So happy together.
You're not allowed to say hi there like that ever again.
Hi there.
Candy cane.
From the top left part of the country in Washington State, Mr. Bryan Frye. How you doing, sir?
How's it going, guys? Happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm good. I am also good because also joining us from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Mr. Chad Robinson. How you doing, sir?
I've got So Happy Together in my head now, so imagine me and you and me.
MVP
nice.
of this one, Chad. MVP.
I can't see me.
I want to harmonize, but I'm not able to keep up with the song as well. I don't know my lyrics as well here, so I just have to go.
That explains your rankings.
Yes,
Yeah.
the turtles. Come on, man.
Yes. We're going to recap what we did here in the Retro Movie Roundtable. It is the year 2021 AD, and this was the year that COVID carried over from 2019. We all got vaccines. There was rioting in the Capitol. President Trump was given a piece of duct tape over his mouth on social media for a little while. Billie Eilish dominated the world, and Elon Musk surpassed Jeff Bezos to become the richest man in the world. And he's well on his way to becoming the next Bond villain, as we discussed in our Bond villain ranking. So let's get into it right away. We're going to recap our rankings of the movies, and then we're going to hand out the year-end awards with a bunch of superlatives. So if you love our superlative section, this is the mother of all superlatives. But let's discuss the rankings. We watched a whopping... Chad, how many movies did we watch this year?
46 movies, sir. I think that's a record.
I think it is a record, and that's due to some new hosts coming online. So thank you, Nathan and Dustin, for taking us to the next level and making us more regular, like Activia.
Yeah, I watched all those movies.
Yeah.
Activia.
I assign them no credit. This was Bryan Frye, myself, and Russell holding it up. I do not share.
I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Right?
So our number 46 through 40 section here. Flight of the Navigator is our last place movie at 46. Born on the 4th of July was at 45. The Runaway Bride was at 44. Blank Man was at 43. Mystery Men was 42. And The Long Goodbye was 41. And Akira will be 40. And it's tied with The Quick and the Dead at 39. So we kind of have a two-way tie there to get us started off here. Now, this first section here, it's kind of a no targeted thing. Dustin, what do you feel about this first entry as we get into our countdown of what we covered this year based on our average ratings as a group?
I suppose there's a couple things that I've picked up over my less than a year with y'all. We don't always give comedies their due, and I think going forward we want to do more comedies. And in this instance we have Mystery Men, Blank Man, and Runaway Bride. All of them would have comedy in their description, and all of them find themselves in the last tier of what we're doing. I'm not exactly sure if that means we don't like comedies. I'm pretty sure it doesn't. I think what it means is that sometimes you get comedies that just don't compare with the filmmaking of the other movies, and we had a lot of good movies this year. But there are, certain movies that hopefully don't act as like the paragon or the example of the type of comedies that we'll want to look at in the future. I know that I ranked some comedies very high for this list, and some of these very low, including Mystery Men and Blank Man. That is my first foray into describing this sort of lower tier of this year.
Now, Chad, pick us up here. Now, you had a couple of these picks a little bit higher. Like, you liked Mystery Men at 22 and Runaway Bride at 26, but there's some that you quite don't like. Like, you had 44 Blank Man, 45 Flight of the Navigator. So tell us about this round for you.
Yeah, we've hit childhood nostalgia in the past. Flight of the Navigator is absolutely in the same vein as Legend for me, of where if you got to these as a child, you probably have fond memories and it boosts it. I got to this as an adult. This is not a watch as an adult type movie for the first time. I completely just, it doesn't work for me. I think this stays in the past.
100% agree with that.
And I believe they're in the process of remaking this. I think Bryce Dallas Howard is involved with a new remake version.
I think what Chad's trying to say is what makes this a compelling movie into adulthood is how it captures you as a child. And being an adult going straight into it, it's a rough watch. I'll be the first to say that you could compare this movie favorably to a movie like Short Circuit, and I'd be like, how dare you? Short Circuit was a masterpiece. And that's because I have that childhood fondness for Short Circuit, whereas Flight of the Navigator, I was just like, I get it. I get where this could have been for me had it gotten me earlier, but I didn't, and it doesn't.
It also doesn't have Steve Guttenberg.
I think it's important to note that the three of you are raising kids.
Yes.
And there are certain movies where it's like, even if it's specifically child-oriented or very good for kids to watch, regardless of when it came into your life, I think I would guess here that like Flight of the Navigator mattered to you when you were a child, but like for your own kids, are you excited to show them Flight of the Navigator? I'm not sure.
No,
Yeah.
and Runaway Bride, I was the high vote. Full disclosure, I did that movie with my wife. I am a fan of Julia Roberts, but there's bias there. Getting to do an episode with my wife is very special, so it causes me to be a little warmer and fuzzier and tolerant of these movies. So I had a charm of, it was a 26, where everyone else was pretty well around the 40 range. So I'm not going to apologize for it. It's special, and I love the episodes where I get to do it with my wife. Whoa, Frozen, sorry.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, me too, brother.
Yeah.
Dustin was
Now,
on
Brian,
that one.
actually, probably the biggest disparity here in this round, you have The Long Goodbye, which we did not like very much as a group, but you have it all the way up at number 5, so you went to bat for this one. So this is the biggest outlier from here. Again, we had it at our 41 movie of the year as a group, but tell us about this one. Like that one strikes me as a little bit odd.
I have rewatched it a couple times since we did the podcast, and I do find myself going back to it like on purpose a lot. And it is easily the movie of the year that I like Raymond Chandler as an author. I've gone back and reread some of his work since this, so I feel like my rating not only mirrors what I feel like what the movie has done for me. It's not necessarily the quality of that movie itself, but its impact on my year.
And I think our second to last movie, Born on the 4th of July, it looks like everybody kind of kept this low. I mean, its highest vote was 35 from Dustin, and everybody just, I think we can all agree that this movie doesn't feel good.
No, it does not.
It does not.
It is the epitome of the movie that, like, am I sorry I watched it once? No. Would I ever watch it again? Absolutely not.
Yeah,
like,
same.
There's no rewatchability. It is a void of rewatchability. It's probably in my bottom 10, like, I prefer to never see this again kind of movie.
It's poignant, it's memorable, it's well made, but it's not a good time. And that I think Chad and I both have those feelings about lots of movies. So I think that's what happened to us.
Yes.
And I almost feel like I need to reach out to my friend, our guest for that episode, Andres. I mean, hey, I don't think he knew what we were going to be getting into when we watched that movie. He just said, let me introduce this. I think it was like in the middle of July. It was sort of like an Independence Day themed week or something. We're like, all right, patriotic movie. Oh, no.
And it was for 10 minutes.
And yeah, before it gets yanked away from you. So, Andy, hey, great pick. But it got ranked where it needed to get ranked. I just want to follow up on The Long Goodbye. I ranked it pretty low. And I wondered to myself, do other people rank this low. I think people like it a lot. It's a classic. It would be described as a classic. But the first thing I typed in to Google was, "Is The Long Goodbye boring?"
Yep.
And I got a lot of answers. And would I watch Elliot Gould act with a cat for a whole movie and give it a better, well, I can't say give it a better ranking, but like Elliot Gould, you could watch him do anything.
He could eat waffles and you would watch that, yeah.
That'd be great. And like I thought to myself, like, this guy is Lupin the Third. This guy is very cool to watch. And then the movie has, his neighbors, all the TNA that they sprinkle in. It's almost like they need it to keep your attention. Of the things that are good about it, I wanted just to start this with like snooze fest. I found myself like zoning out. But I was looking at the reviews at the time, and it was just thinking like, the critics at the time didn't like how Elliot Gould's character was different than the author's version of the character, which is so way beyond. We're not in Retro Book Roundtable, but I mean that's something that like I just don't know that yet. Yeah, I just didn't know. So I don't know if it's boring, but that was a question a lot of people were asking.
I have the same Google search. I called it the unnecessarily long movie.
It was a long movie. On to one that I'm the outlier on. I had Blank Man way higher than everybody here. I had it at 24, and again, it's our number 43 movie. So I just I would say to you guys, I don't think you got it. Maybe you need to go back and check out. This is some deep stuff. I mean,
I want to jump in right here and give my comedy disclaimer. I want to apologize to our listeners because there is probably no caveat in this world, no genre that I am harder on than comedies.
It's true.
And I am so fickle. I'm so picky. Even nostalgia comedies where I go back and watch them again. I had a rough time with Dumb and Dumber recently, and and that's something I used to watch on the regular. So I honestly just want to tell people to probably ignore my comedy rankings. Like it is safer for you as a listener to not take my point of view to heart when it comes to comedies, because I recognize how hard I am on them.
That is a very fair thing to say, and that's a good disclaimer. And that's why we average all these things together. So, being that we kind of had a tie there, our next round here is 39. Like I said, was a tie. It's The Quick and the Dead. 38 is Enter the Dragon. 37 is Working Girl. 36 is The Out of Towners, and that's the 1970 version. 35 is Out of Sight. 34 is Judge Dredd. 33, JFK. 32, The International. 31, The Adjustment Bureau. All right, let's start with you, Chad. What do you think about this round here? I see that none of these are real high. Actually, none of these movies you were the high voter on. You were the lowest on JFK of anybody, as well as The Adjustment Bureau and Out of Sight.
Yeah, so I have a history background. That's where I have a master's degree in. And I think particularly in 2021, I'm also hypersensitive to annoying conspiracy theories. So JFK suffered a lot for being unhistorical and a conspiracy theory. I'm always going to push back on that. So yeah, I was very, very low. I was number 43. Out of Sight. And Jennifer Lopez, I really expected Russell to take this out harder on her. I feel like you're very hard on Jennifer Lopez, but yeah, bathtub scene, pantsuit, none of it worked for me. But I feel like most of these movies, they're about where they belong.
I gotta say, with Jennifer Lopez and Out of Sight, I can't remember if it was because I was listening to the podcast episode on this one, because I wasn't on it. Was this ranked like the sexiest movie of the year?
It was ranked as one of the sexiest movies of all time, yes.
Yes, it's like number 10 or so top all time. Ridiculous.
And I don't normally go to the top shelf with my words, but I would maybe say ridiculous as well. Yeah, there's some sexy, steamy. I think the best moment that is like alluring, that kind of draws you into that feeling, when they're like meeting at the bar, all those other guys are hitting on her and he comes up. That part of the movie was the only part of the movie that I felt like, this is good. The rest of it made me feel like, you guys liked this movie? Or that people really seemed to like buy into it. The soundtrack was atrocious as well. So I also ranked it pretty low, and I wanted to give Jennifer Lopez. I want to give Jennifer Lopez anything, but I wanted to give her more credit. But I felt like her she was one note, and then George Clooney. I much prefer to see him kind of babbling buffoonery than a little too cool. Now, of course, do I like him as Danny Ocean? Yeah. But I got to agree with, like, I think everything falls into exactly where it needed to fall.
You know who's not going to agree with us on this very much is Bryan. This is like his tier. He's the high voter on almost all of these movies. Quick and the Dead, Enter the Dragon, Out of Sight, Judge Dredd, JFK, and The International. All of them on this tier. Frye, you're the high voter on.
Gosh, I feel like there's a lot to defend here, but JFK falls into a bucket where I do feel like I am a Kevin Costner apologist. I'm a fan. I basically really like almost everything he does. I'm not saying he doesn't, there aren't some stinkers in there, but that's why JFK is where it is, because I actually do enjoy this movie. Chad is 1000% right. I'm not taking away from his critique on that at all, because sure, but just from a film standpoint, I thought it was compelling. Judge Dredd is a nostalgia piece. I'm a huge Judge Dredd fan. Anybody who plays Call of Duty with me knows I have the comic book version of Judge Dredd as the skin on my Call of Duty, so that's awesome. Just going to happen. The International was my dealer's choice, so that shouldn't be super shocking. Out of Sight is another crime noir thing. That's literally that's my wheelhouse. That's where I live. So yeah, this is just me being me in this tier. So
Into the Dragon, like, this one really shocks me. Dustin, you're kung fu guy. Like, this is your thing. Like, like Chad's horror guy, Frye's crime guy, I'm comedy guy, and you're a fighting movie guy. You're a kung fu guy, and Bruce Lee's icon. You have it low, and Frye has it the highest here. What happened?
It is. Well, I mean, I definitely said this on the show. Go back and listen on the show, but if you want to watch Bruce Lee be awesome, watch The Big Boss or watch The Way of the Dragon. If you go and search for Bruce Lee movies, you'll find a lot of movies about Bruce Lee, but you won't find a lot of stuff he's the star of. And unfortunately, and I never use that word, this is hot garbage. Enter the Dragon is awful. And I told Meredith that, and whoever else was the host on that show.
I was there. I saw it.
Dude, you know. There was so much about it that made zero sense. There was so much of, like, wasted potential of what that could be. You ranked it high because you love James Bond and spy movies, and you thought this is what that could be.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, this hit me in my James Bond feels a little bit, which, like, that helps me out a lot, because as you guys know, I'm James Bond super good fan.
Yeah, and I know we bounced off of The International. I wanted that movie to be so awesome, and it fell flat for me. But I was so invested in that. Love Naomi Watts, love Clive Owen. Even though I don't tend to see Clive Owen do that much that's awesome. But yeah, Enter the Dragon was, if we were gonna move on to the next tier, I would have made sure to say, it's just a trick of the mind. Because Bruce Lee is great, you think this movie is great. This movie is, I believe, the worst movie of the year. You guys ranked it higher, saving it from being called the worst movie of the year. It's just so bad. Bruce Lee, awesome, incredible. Everything else about it, off.
Man, this was probably one of two movies where we were all very much in line, except for Dustin, because it was 28, 26, and 29. And then there's Dustin at 42.
Well, can I rank that as one of the best tirades we've ever had on the show?
Yeah, I was going to say that came out of nowhere. This is late to have a tirade.
I want to rank that in our top 5 tirades. Like, there's actually not a whole lot I disagree in his piece there, outside of the fact that I just found it to be an enjoyable movie.
Yeah.
Like, It wasn't good because it was good. It was good because it scratches some itches.
It reminds me of Mortal Kombat, and that makes me happy.
Exactly. Oh, dude, that's a great. I got some fighting. I got some, spy stuff.
Afro.
It's not.
You got a good afro
because it was good. It was good. Because...
You'd have a great afro in that movie. Yeah, he's so underused.
That's the reason it's as high as it is.
So one that I feel like I have to answer for is I have Working Girl at 12, and the average rating here was 30. and it's placed at 37. So I'm way out of line here. This one was nominated for Oscars. It was highly acclaimed. It's got clout behind it. I'm really surprised I was the outlier here. Bryan, you weren't on that episode or anything. What is it that's not hitting it for you? Like, you're the low voter here, and Chad doesn't love it either.
Yeah, so I watched this movie with my wife. We were both kind of excited about it. And I think this one hits me differently because I work in a cubicle. So the triumph at the end of this film, the song's kicking in. It's talking about a new Jerusalem and just this hallelujah moment. And she's got a cubicle job. I understand the context of it, but I'm like, you're living a corporate cube life, and I'm just sad that you're happy about this.
Oh man, I love an underdog story, and this is what this is. So I mean, it's somebody in a very realistic type of situation. It's a bit naive, of course, especially given when it was made, but I mean, it feels good to see somebody rise up and achieve something. So I don't know, it just hit me in all the right notes, and having Harrison Ford doesn't hurt either.
I want to say one thing about this sort of tier that we're in, about the Adjustment Bureau, which I had initially selected for its sci-fi and premise, which was very fun to me. And John Slattery's involvement as a supporting actor was fun, which is why I even went and saw it. However, I was just looking at the list real quick, and I was thinking an underrated thing about that movie is the romance between Emily Blunt and Matt Damon's character. I'm looking at the movies in our list that have romance, right? Where that's a big part of the movie. And I would say that aside from the rest of the movie, that particular quality of the Adjustment Bureau, their seemingly real, almost real-world style connection, was something that I hope isn't overlooked whenever anybody looks at that movie, was that their attraction, their spark between them seems so real, and I didn't want to lose a chance to talk about it again.
It's good that you mentioned that. And where that's not present is Born on the 4th of July.
Well, outside of my satire piece on the fact that it's called Working Girl, I just there's a point in time where you can show too much of the devastation that is 80s attire and hair, and like that movie's frankly visually offensive.
I will say the 80s-ness does not strike me well, and it
is a brutal watch, because you're like, the world existed like this for a period of time, and maybe it should have ended there. Like that might have been aesthetically the lowest part of our history.
Oh yeah, certainly. I mean, it was like we just got off, like, the 50s and 60s, and like those were very stylish, formal times. And then you get to the 70s, and everyone's loosening up, and there's a lot of different, things are different in the 70s, and then the 80s come along. It's just like, hey, let's make cars really boxy. Women's fashion will be
foul.
Giant shoulder pads, giant hair. I mean, buildings will make them goofy. Yeah.
Joan Cusack we don't have a superlative for this, so I'm going to make it up right now. Joan Cusack gets worst hair of the...
Well, she also gets that in Runaway Bride, which was a 90s movie.
I remember Dustin didn't like those hair clips. It bothered him.
The butterfly clips, honestly, like Joan Cusack, I don't take this personally. I know you're a listener, but we're just ragging on the attire of the times, not you.
Yes. All right, let's go into the next tier. We got a lot of dealer's choices here, so this is probably where the most of the dealer's choices are going to come in the highest density anyway. So at number 30, we have The Loved Ones. Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, comes in at 29. Dune is 28. Stand and Deliver is 27. A View to a Kill is 26. Silverado, another Kevin Costner movie, is at 25. Amadeus is at 24. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, more Kevin Costner if you didn't get your fill this year, is at 23. To Die For is at 22. And Hero, I Need a Hero, at 21. Let's see. Chad, you seem to have the most extremes on this one. You have 5 of these ranked the highest and 3 of them ranked the lowest. And you have the most stratification. Be interesting for us. Tell us things.
Be interesting. Yeah, so The Loved Ones was my dealer's choice. That was a very popular hit. Everyone loved watching it. I'm sure there will be absolutely no disagreement for it. It's a great romance story. Check it out, Amazon Prime. What's fun for me
There's a lot of
here-
stratification on that one. Chad goes 11, Dustin goes 22, Bryan goes 33, and then I go 46. So it drops in increments of almost 11 across each of us. So it's you won't find anything that's more divided than this one probably.
I will demand an explanation in a minute, but Star Trek is the one I want to talk about because Russell Guest banned me from the Star Trek episode. He said, everyone else enjoys Star Trek more than you. You're the Star Wars guy. Stay home. Well, guess who had the highest rating on Star Trek?
I don't know what happened here. I thought this was a typo.
I'm super happy. No, this warms my heart for Chad. This actually made me really happy when I heard about this. We talked about it briefly before the show. We're gonna hug it out over this. I love it.
Now, where you won't hug it out is Chad said Dune is the 46th movie, and Dustin said that's the 10, and Frye said that's the 12. So you guys are at odds on Dune.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, let me take my lumps here. Do you have any idea how difficult it is to make a movie with Brad Dourif and Patrick Stewart boring? I mean, kudos to David Lynch for his meandering nonsense. David Lynch.
That's right. You have a thing with David Lynch where you don't like good directors or something, yeah.
I don't like directors that take a novel that clearly don't understand sci-fi and just say, I'm going to do whatever with it, and here's Dune.
I love Brad Dourif's character in Dune. I love Piter.
He
got my best quote on that episode.
There you go.
Yeah.
So
are you ready for Frye to hurt you? Like her?
It's not. I'm not. Look, anybody who listened to the Dune episode,
or any episode at all this year, by the way.
we'll hear that I understand that this film has faults. Even Dune enthusiasts would probably string me up for saying that I enjoy this movie. And that's fine. It's one of those things where I had something, and even though it was flawed, I held it dear because it's all I had.
So Frye said have some spice and sit back and relax and have a smile with your blue eyes.
Yeah, so anyway, look, I've recommended Frank Herbert's Dune to all of you as a book over the years. Well, Dustin, we've just met recently, but everybody else I've recommended to you probably 20 years ago.
Aggressively, I might add. In fact, he might have recommended it to Dustin while I was in college. He's like, who are your roommates? Recommend they read Dune. I don't know who they are.
But the thing is, I was never like, watch the David Lynch's Dune. Like, that's not what I'm enthusiastic.
Actually, it's a beautiful movie in terms of the sets, the wardrobe, and stuff like that. The new movie is also beautiful, but if David Lynch did anything well, it's created a beautiful, visually striking experience. The storytelling's messed up in that movie, but that's not even his fault. The studio said, hey, you got 2 movies, and then it's like, oh, by the way, it's 1 movie.
I just picture Frye like a weird Gideon, one of those people that puts Bibles in hotels, except he's got
Dune.
Just a suitcase full of Dune books, and he's just passing them out. Like, read this.
If you go to Spokane, Washington, and you just happen to be in an elevator, and somebody turns around to you and pulls Dune out of his pocket and says, like, have you read this book? And that's Bryan, by the way, if that happens to you. So
all I know is that ever since the new Dune movie has come out, I have been blasted on Facebook with Frye, you were right. So I kind of want to make a Dune t-shirt like the Magneto was right, and it just says Frye was right, and then a Dune picture on it.
That was we knew that was coming. Now, one of the ones that I think Bryan, you loved a lot was Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Is this just Kevin Costner's enthusiasm coming back for you again?
Well, period pieces in general. I've liked a lot of bad period pieces in my time.
Would you call Carrie a good period piece or a bad period piece?
That's good.
See what you did there,
Russell. Nice.
It's more about the time in which it was released. I am a Costner fan, so I'm not going to back away from that. His mullet in that movie is hideous.
It's gloriously hideous.
Christian Slater was a little rough too, but Morgan Freeman fan, Alan Rickman fan. It was a very compelling story. I feel like the action sequences were awesome, and it's one of the first movies that really got me into the very, very epic period piece, the Gladiator, Kingdom of Heaven, like the ones that really spin. I can't wait to see The Last Duel. So like these really hardcore, gritty knights in armor period pieces. So I give it a lot of credit for doors and windows that it opened up for me.
I was not very extreme on this tier. I had very few high and low moments, but my outlying high moment was very high. I like to View to a Kill, the James Bond movie, way more than everybody else here. It's probably because I'm a 007 fanboy, but so that's your explanation, case in point. But I love this movie, and I'm sad that you don't.
You can be a fanboy but have bad taste. This is bad taste.
Oh,
at no point in time, if I were introducing my daughter age appropriately to James Bond, the first movie she watches would never be A View to a Kill.
Nope.
Like,
we could go 20 deep and it's not.
Yeah, it would be buried
on Her
it would
Majesty's
be,
Secret Service.
be buried so deeply in what she got
you
to
take
watch.
that back.
ooh.
P.S. Listen to our Bond rankings episode.
Can I just say, in this area, I feel like this is where I get to the point, and maybe this is me just being positive all over everything, which is, I think this is where I start to get into, I don't have any of these movies that I would consider bad. I just would consider all the ones above them bad.
1,000%.
Yeah, you Dustin has none of the
Absolutely.
low votes at this tier at all. This is definitely an ambivalent tier for him. Again, Brian has a number of the downturns here, so like Silverado surprised me though. Brian tends to be a supporter of the westerns, and boy, you did not like Stand and Deliver, Fry. That was the other one that really shocked me.
It's purgatory for me. I don't care. Like the movie was just very, all right. Like I don't hate it, but I didn't like it. So it's
So you
Beyond
punished it
and
to the
Bed
bottom
Bath
of your
and Beyond.
rankings.
Well, I think this was a fun thing too. Is I don't know how frequently in the past, before this year, anybody had brought in a dealer's choice that was new to them as well. I think we had kind of had the idea that dealer's choices were sometimes your favorites.
No,
things that you...
I go for things that just the show needs. Sometimes that I'm just eager to see a movie I haven't seen.
And so I guess I kind of like here that this biopic was like better ranked than, like, to say JFK. Like especially because it was about somebody that didn't have, we'll say, worldwide recognition. But yeah, it's something that I guess with Frye, with what you were saying, like, I don't think it was that great either. I saw it the two times for the show, and I feel like I'm good. I know the story. I liked the Olmos performance, which specifically another reason why I had it as a dealer's choice, because Edward James Olmos was my least favorite character in Blade Runner. So, like, being a part of that movie, like seeing it the two times I saw it, I was like, yeah, I'm good. This is a cool story, but I'm good to move past it. Which, ambivalent might be the word, but I'm just sort of like, yeah, that was cool for what it was. But I would bet that biopic is probably, like with Kung Fu, one of the like categories of movies we don't cover so much.
For those of you who aren't on our Skype call, me knifing myself is Dustin saying that Olmos was his least favorite character in Blade Runner.
One that strikes me as odd for this one is, Chad, you're not Mr. Western guy. Frye is, but you liked Silverado a lot, and Frye, not so much.
Oh, Silverado was so much fun. I was enchanted by the movie. It just had a great spirit. It wasn't the gritty, down in the dirt Western, which is probably the conflict for Frye. This was not Tombstone. This was not Unforgiven. It was a whole lot more energetic, upbeat, and fun. So that's probably the disconnect there.
Yeah, I do prefer my Westerns to be a little bit dark. I mean, Deadwood is still one of my favorite shows. I will say this too, that just based on kind of how we've talked about our rankings so far and what ends up being at the bottom, there are only two movies that I felt so strongly about in this that I wouldn't watch again. And one of them is Born on the 4th of July, which we talked about already. And the other one was Mystery Men, because I hate Ben Stiller.
Oh, God.
So outside of that, I don't have strong opinions in terms of hate for any of the movies we watched this year. So Working Girl, Enter the Dragon for Dustin, Blank Man, like Runaway Bride. Some of these movies are at the bottom of my list just because I'm like, they're if it's take it or leave it, it might be leave it, but it's not like pitchforks and torches.
That's actually a really good way of putting that, Frye, because I'm the same way. I mean, there's only like 2 movies. I really was not that into The Long Goodbye. I was fortunate I wasn't on that episode because I would struggle to muster the positivity that it takes to do that show. And the other one was The Loved Ones, which was...
Explain yourself. Explain yourself now. The pulpit is yours.
Oh, I mean, I just felt like it was a movie that didn't have a lot of... Things didn't connect in the story. There were things that were going on, and if edited, you wouldn't probably have the proper length of movie, so it was...
Chad, I want to talk next.
And I also am not a big fan of just like showing a lot of gore, which is what the trademark of that movie is. And so I'm more in terms of the building suspense and character development. And this movie is about showing you brutality, and as its main calling card, that's what people will remember it for. And it is memorable, but it's not enjoyable for that reason. And I just don't think it has the craft of character and story that I'm looking for in a horror movie. And I know you guys had a great time with it, but this is one that I would recommend people not watch.
Look, I had this fairly low on my list, but again, it was just a victim of the fact that there were things I liked better. I had such an amazing time watching this with my wife because she went into this movie doing notes for her patients and literally stopped doing everything she was supposed to be doing and started watching this movie. So from a attraction and like from a point where you can't really stop watching it, I give it a lot of kudos because most of the time she ignores the hell out of everything I watch. And like, I give it kudos for that. But in terms of the brutality goes, I feel like you've got to have a certain amount of that to make a compelling horror movie these days, especially, once Dawn of the Dead turned the corner on, what zombie movies were supposed to be doing, or maybe even 28 days later,
I think it's
credited for that. So things got, the bar was raised. So this happening in a more rural atmosphere in a different country, and how they did it, like, I actually applauded a little bit based on the fact that this was one of the more original pieces that came out better than I expected.
Yep. The whole goal was to produce a memorable movie. That's been the criticism of my dealer's choice horrors, is they're not memorable. So...
Oh, well.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah, don't badmouth Chad's dealer's choices. He will overcompensate. So
with The Loved Ones and with To Die For, I think both of these in this tier accomplish something which is making you feel uneasy. A certain, like I know I've said it before, but the role of the artist is to make you feel. And in both of these movies, things are off and things are weird. And that normally gets a pretty good ranking from me, or just a good experience is, ooh, I didn't know I'd be feeling that way.
To Die For is just such another animal for me. It reminds me a lot of Jake Gyllenhaal's performance in Nightcrawler, where it's just like,
awesome.
What happens when when you strip away the morality that most people will have to stop, and blind ambition completely takes over, and the results are something that's like so foreign to anything. It really does create an interesting character study, and the acting performance there was really good. So that was an unexpected one to come to my plate. I hadn't heard of To Die For. I was surprised. I wasn't excited going in, but I thought it was interesting. In the 20 to 11 range, we have The Sting coming in lower than expected, The Titanic coming in at 19, 1963's Pink Panther coming in at 18, Get Shorty at 17, Fargo at 16, Apocalypse Now at 15, West Side Story at 14, Invasion of the Body Snatchers at 13, Laura at 12, Blade Runner at 11. I think Brian needs to say something because this is our first time a number one movie's come up, and it's the lowest ranked movie for someone who picked this as their top movie, and this surprises me. Blade Runner is our number 11 movie. Brian, you did your best. You gave us your number one ranking. What happened here? Chad happened. I'll answer that. Chad happened. He ranked at 42 for some reason, but explain, Chad, why this makes you sad.
So I did superlatives for our rankings, and I said, for this one, I've done questionable things, which is a Blade Runner quote. You know what? This just doesn't work for me. It's bleak I straight up don't get it. I will admit it. I don't get it. I've tried a couple of times, haven't seen the modern movie, and this movie makes me never want to. It has all the components of Harrison Ford. I want the sci-fi, I want this new age background, but it just, nothing works for me. I found it dull.
Dystopian futures are not your thing, Chad.
I like Judge Dredd. I like Judge Dredd a
that's a good
lot more
point.
than this. So this hurt me to see Frye at number 1. I was just like, I feel terrible.
Yeah, Frye.
If someone held a torch to my feet and said, pick your favorite movie of all time, Blade Runner would likely be what I scream out.
Oh,
I am a fan of dystopian stuff. When Hunger Games came to prominence and they really started pushing this, dystopian future, a lot of the young adult novels went that direction. Film followed suit very quickly after. I was like, okay, I'm pretty much game for this. But this was in the same suit of Alien. Like, this was that dark, that bleak, that, it's raining half the time. The tone, the visuals, the acting in this, the philosophy. There's literally a book that's Blade Runner and philosophy. This was seriously right up my alley. So not only are you giving me all the sci-fi that I adore, but you're also giving me a lot of the philosophy that I frankly believe in. I guess the reason that I get behind this so much is because it's a much maligned movie based on constant edits, other editions, and that sort of thing that, getting out the word took so long based on people trying to get in the way. So that also appeals to me, where, director's trying to say his piece and someone's trying to say no. And I will say this, Denis Villeneuve, he did, with the second movie, he did this justice. And that's why I was 100% behind him doing a Dune remake.
There it is. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
He had my trust. He already had my trust. So to wrap it all together, you have a movie that I love. You have a director that I also follow outside of Legend. And it's got to be said. But anyway, I mean, this leads to, the promised land of me getting more of what I like. So
yeah, and this it's worth noting, this is our biggest gap. Like, the next closest lowest rating is 13. So I am a statistical outlier here. As with Frye, with comedies, don't listen to a word I just said. Everybody else enjoys this movie. I'm a weirdo. I'm gonzo here. So just ignore the man behind the curtain.
You want to know about another big disparity, though? Dustin had Titanic at 4 and Frye had it at 38.
Yeah.
I just don't care. I don't. We had to see it in school. I just don't care.
Ooh, that's an interesting point.
Wow.
I understand what a production it was, and I applaud what they did, and I understand it's a remarkable movie in its own right. But in terms of me watching it again, I don't care. I just don't. It's one of those movies that...
You know what happens.
It's one of those movies where I just, like, I get it. Like, all of the pieces are there to make this a groundbreaking thing, and I recognize it. But for me personally, I don't care.
Wow.
I just don't.
Yeah, I had that opinion initially, but, returning to it, with more mature eyes, I kind of was like, no, I get it. It is good. So
you would have won me over better without the romance piece.
There wouldn't be a lot left.
Well, no, I mean, if they made this, you're telling me you can't make a drama.
Like, do you want to watch the captain, like, behind the wheel being like, uh-oh.
Captain's a good character.
When the initial Bonnie and Clyde movie came out, it was all about them. They were superstars in their own right at the same time. Everybody was a fan of Bonnie and Clyde, regardless of how many people they killed and whatever else bad stuff that they did. They were like pro Bonnie and Clyde. Now, recently, Netflix comes out with a movie basically making heroes of the two guys who take them down. They were literally the antagonists of the Bonnie and Clyde movie, and they made that movie. So you can't tell me that you can't give me a polarizing movie as anything else in the Titanic story but you have to make a sappy romance of the scrappy guy who falls in love with the girl out of his station. Like, that's insane. There's no way you can't give me something more compelling than that.
Well, what might appeal to you more is a guy who hires to have his wife kidnapped, and then people get put into wood chippers, and there's a murder mystery, and it's cold and there's a lot of snow. In the movie Fargo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so this is an interesting one for me because Dustin has this at 6, Bryan has this at 9, and it's like this split. Chad has it at 24 and I have it at 35. And I like this movie, by the way. This just speaks to the strength of the movies we do, but you guys really like this movie, and Chad and I are not quite on the same page with you. I think that I'm detecting the darkness is something that appeals obviously more to Frye, but I think, Dustin, you might have a little more darkness in you than Chad and I do.
Yeah, you're right. It's these movies that there's something under the surface, or it's just a central theme. I totally like agree with your just analysis that like if there's something dark about it, then I will be drawn in a little bit. Before I forget, because I'd love to talk more about Fargo. In fact, maybe a superlative or two went that direction.
Whoa, that's a tease.
Whoa.
The thing that surprises me here is that based on the way that some of us are so out there compared to what everyone else says, it just seems strange to me that like a Titanic, according to Retro Movie Roundtable, according to this podcast episode, it's like this group thinks Get Shorty is higher ranked than Titanic. Like that to me, that seems wild. And if the reason is because we have Frye that says, yeah, I just don't.
Frye
really
said it's a Leonard Elmore book, so have you read that?
No, this isn't Retro Book Roundtable. Still one of the funniest phrases I've ever heard on our podcast. But I'm such a huge Coen Brothers fan anyway. In fact, I'm currently keeping track of on Twitter. I believe they're doing a it's almost a March Madness style bracket of best Coen Brothers characters going up against each other, and people are voting and giving their reasons with the cast of Fargo and with the types of conversations or even just dialogue between the characters. It's just incredible. I don't know because I wasn't on that episode. Would have loved to have been on that episode, but without putting the deep dive back into it, it's just something that I know I can rewatch every year, if not twice a year. It's just great. I also, strangely, speaking of like liking dark things, I also really like movies. I don't know if this sounds super strange, but I like movies that make me feel cold.
Mm.
Oh, I actually agree with that. I really
Right?
gravitate toward like Arctic. One of my favorite X-Files episodes was the one that happens up at that like the We Aren't Who We Are episode.
Frye
Like,
does
it's-
love The Thing.
Yeah, The Thing. That's what it made. It's like an homage.
The Thing, great example. So no, I'm 100% behind you on that.
I almost, instead of Adjustment Bureau, I almost said we got to do The Gray. That all happens in Alaska.
Oh,
The
that's a good
Hateful
one.
Eight.
Yeah.
Like movies that make you, for some reason, I get drawn to these movies that make you feel cold. Fargo is it, and it's just so funny, too.
Yeah, there's a dark humor aspect to it that's money.
The desperation and anxiety in William H. Macy's face, like there's so much that is, it's very good.
This tier is probably my tier that I pushed the hardest. I have the highest number of high rankings in this one. I have The Sting, Pink Panther, Get Shorty, West Side Story, and Laura all ranked the highest of all of these votes. And I gotta say, these are ones that I did have a good time, and I think I'm noticing. Obviously, I do like a little bit of humor, and whether it be The Sting, I love Get Shorty, and Laura's not funny, obviously, but and then anytime you bring
Laura is hilarious. No, oh god, it's witty. Sorry, that's what Laura, especially with Waldo's character, he's just so fast. Maybe that's not what I didn't mean it's hilarious, but he's such a quick wit. That's what comes to my forefront.
Yes, so it's just interesting. If this was a tier, this is my tier that I helped push the hardest, and I think Frye pushed against me the hardest as well too, because West Side Story he pushed pretty hard back down at 30, Pink Panther 36, again The Sting 35. So it's interesting. Frye and I seem to be the yin and the yang. I don't know. Which one do you want to be, Frye? Yang or yin?
It's funny because I do enjoy musicals, but it's something I enjoy more live than I do on film. So I feel like film representations of musicals often fall flat for me. It doesn't matter how good they are. It's something I'd rather see on the stage.
That's true.
It's not fair to the movie. I'll cop to that immediately, but I think the reason that it got such a lower, because I struggled with that one. I can't tell you how many times I bounced West Side Story around because I'm like, it's not a bad movie. It's really not, and I don't want it to seem like that for my rankings. But like after you've seen a good Broadway musical, like you don't really want to see it any other method.
And you definitely don't want to see it in a movie form.
I've seen this one in a stage performance, and they do take on a very different life. I think there's a difference in like ones that aren't made very well. Like, I mean, I've seen Hairspray live, and
Cats.
Yeah,
Cats.
Cats is a big difference.
Cats.
Disparity
That
of
is-
play to movie, or Hairspray, or I think Phantom of the Opera was a big letdown in movie format. But then again, there's other times where there's a movie that, like The Music Man, Guys and Dolls. I mean, there's just some of these, West Side Story is one of them, where it's just like,
Little Shop.
yeah, Little Shop, I mean, which we'll cover soon. The movie takes on its own life, and there's something special there too. So I can have it both ways.
This was a strange tier for me. Like, to Dustin's point about Get Shorty being higher than Titanic, I'm not ostensibly saying Get Shorty is a better movie, but for me, a lot of these movies are, I would rather watch this than another
100%.
movie again. You know, Fargo, I didn't know what to do with.
Chad texted me, he goes, I watched Fargo. I'm not sure. Did I like this movie?
Yeah, I'm befuddled by this movie. I don't think it's good. I don't think it's bad. I think it's entirely like, I considered not ranking it. It's in its own thing. And one last thing, Dustin, I think this was my second episode with Dustin. It was Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And our other guest was named Chad, and it was the most confusing episode. But it was great for it to happen on Body Snatchers. We were slowly turning everyone into Chad, and he had to resort to like last names, and it was just a struggle. Dustin had become a new host. Like
I assimilate it. By the end of the episode, I definitely become your third host, Chad.
Yes. Yeah, so that was a lot of fun in a weird situation.
I wanted somebody to be on there, Brad, so you could go Chad, Brad, and then like kind of have like an airplane, like Roger, Victor, Vector, and like what?
And then we all start a fraternity afterwards. Yep.
Yeah. All right, let's get into the top tier here. These are the cream of the crop. The bee's knees. Sorry, Frye, Blade Runner didn't make it into there, so I blame Chad for that one. But
I'm sorry.
The averaged out top 10 of Retro Movie Roundtable for the year 2021. Number 10, Psycho. Number 9, Little Shop of Horrors. Number 8, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Number 7, The Muppet Christmas Carol. Number 6, Scream. Number 5, Sunshine. Number 4, The Departed. Number 3, 12 Angry Men. Number 2, Beauty and the Beast. And number 1, wait for it, The Exorcist. Dustin, I don't think you like the top of our countdown as much. You have 4 of the low votes of this tier, and all 3 of the top 3 movies you are the low voter on. Are you upset with these rankings?
No, I'm not upset with these.
You got hate in your
He
heart?
said, I'm not upset. I'm disappointed. Like giving
Boo this
the
man.
dad like
Boo this man, boo.
No, not at all. I think this is an excellent top 10 list. 12 Angry Men probably should have been number 1.
Yes. Save for you, yes.
That's true. Chad had it at number 1. Brian had it at 2, and I had it at 4. So this is kind of a Wizard of Oz scenario. Back when we did Wizard of Oz, Chad tanked it, I believe. Or
I'm still proud of that.
Yeah.
Well, let's not make it
Proud of every
into
unit.
like this was a hit job on 12 Angry Men, but I do want to say Brian brought up like about Titanic, like we watched this in school. Of all the movies we covered, maybe of all the movies anyone's ever covered, 12 Angry Men is the number 1 lesson to learn. It's the number 1 in terms of what do you take away from this movie? Whether it's about due process, whether it's about not making snap judgments or reading a book by its cover, there's a whole lot of things about what's good about this movie. And I watched this in high school twice, once for an English class and once for maybe a civics class or something. So does it deserve its accolades for what the message is? Certainly it does. But when I was looking at how to rank these movies, I was looking at like entertainment, and I was looking at some of these movies are big, and some of these movies are dark, and some of these movies are weird, and some of these movies, let's face it, are Muppets. You know that's going to get a great review from me. So when I was looking at 12 Angry Men, I don't think you three are wrong for ranking it high. I just think like what it's good at is a lesson about the goodness of listening and open-mindedness and the things that it's lauded for. And yes, it also was nominated for awards. I don't know which ones it won. So I think it deserves its place. But as far as like the entertainment of what is provided, you see 12 white men in a one set room only a couple times before you're like, okay, I know the lesson. Like the Titanic, yeah, I know it sinks. Like I know what this is. I'd rather watch something else. It's not like I tanked this thing on purpose. It's just that I know what it is. And I'd love to be surprised by like Laura, for instance, was new to me, or or Sunshine. Like some of these other movies really stood out as impactful, whereas maybe it's unfair to say the impact of 12 Angry Men has already been ingrained in the way I live my life. I don't need it anymore.
I'm gonna excuse that because Dustin, you have made me proud. You were the representative for horror. I was not the number one with horror. You were.
Yeah.
So we should call out the fact that the number one selections here. Chad had 12 Angry Men, which we just talked about, as his number one, and Dustin had Scream, which finished out at 6 as his number one.
It's a perfect movie.
Yes, and I had The Muppet Christmas Carol as my number one, which I'll probably need to explain myself later, but let's go on. Chad just wants to credit you, Dustin, like from the tank job, which is not as egregious as the Wizard of Oz tank job of 2019.
Disagree. I'm taking down Toto.
He had How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days over.
How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days is a better movie than Wizard of Oz.
Yikes.
You know what? Those flying monkeys were the best part.
Kate Hudson wearing a yellow dress causes the Wizard of Oz to get knocked down. I'm still recovering over it. It's not sitting well with me, even as I sit there. I have to adjust my chair. I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm
to
not
be
happy.
fair, I understand, Russell. Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand.
Sorry. I didn't want to say
You did like 3 different metaphors in one.
Yeah. Tell me about Scream. I'm flustered.
By Kate Hudson's yellow dress.
Scream, I didn't realize how great it was until examining with the critical eye. I think it was the best movie we did this year. If there was like a web of different qualities, or if this were some type of video game and there were like different stats and stuff, it would have high stats in everything. And so like that's why it earned my number one. It wasn't like a joke to put it up there. I wasn't trying to be meta with it. Like it was just like, whoa. How did I not realize that the enjoyment I got from Scream was because it's perfect? And some of the other high marks I gave to horror, that was actually just due to this year that I realized, man, I like horror a lot more than I thought.
Not so much Psycho though.
So, I don't know why. Like when I said we were in like the 20 to 30 rankings, that's when I said we're not in the area where I think these movies are worse than others. We're in the area where I think other movies are better.
Got it.
Like that's where I made that turn. So yeah, the things that I put down in the 45 list, yeah, they just I was pretty adamant about why I would put them there. But this, yeah, I don't Psycho. I don't know why it didn't make its way up the list more. But I do hold that movie in high regard. I love the music of Psycho as well, not just that particular, like everything about Psycho is good, but that doesn't mean like that its place on the list means I was down on it. But yeah, horror was huge for me this year, thanks to Chad, or I guess thanks to Robinson, not DeVrent. DeVrent, you were a great guest.
Chad has a kindred spirit here with that.
Yes, I'm sitting here just grinning like the Cheshire Cat. Like, finally, one of them understands.
Now, The Exorcist, I think we should talk about it. It's our number one movie, and then for historical documentation here, it joins L.A. Confidential and Alien as our number one exclusive classes here. So it's in high regard here. Nobody selected The Exorcist as the number one movie. It actually had rankings of 6, 9, 8, and 2. So it's just interesting. Nobody kept it out of their top 10. And that's a very interesting thing. And it's kind of interesting also that The Sting, which was down at 19 for us, won the Oscar for Best Picture that year. But The Exorcist, which was also nominated for Best Picture, we have all the way up here at number 1. So just interesting things of what's holding up over time.
I think everybody gets their day. Like, obviously for LA Confidential, I was like, yay. So I'm happy The Exorcist is here for this, because it is an excellent movie, and it should be. And I like seeing various genres get there. But I mean, I was leading the charge for LA Confidential, so I'm super excited that we're showing that solidarity in terms of various genres.
Yeah. I mean, The Exorcist demands it. I gave it number
Agreed.
6. It's not my favorite horror movie we did. Scream is my favorite, along with Dustin. But The Exorcist is just excellence. What stunned me, though, was the number 2, particularly from Frye with Beauty and the Beast. We were on that episode, and you gave it a 5-star, which is a triumph, because along with comedies, Frye will tank animated features.
I think Frye's just going to come back and say this was a hard list of movies to, whittle down at the top.
100%. And again, I've said that I'm not an animated movie driver. Do I think it's maybe the best animated movie I've ever seen? 100%. But it's also not something I'm digging up for my own personal enjoyment on a regular basis. So,
you know what else you're not digging up? Little Shop of Horrors. That's the lowest ranking of anybody in this tier. Again, but that goes back to your musical thing as well as your comedy thing. This is in a Venn diagram. This is on the outside of everything.
Well, and a weird fact here is if there's a green puppet, Frye disliked it because it also happened to Muppets Christmas Carol.
Oh, yeah. You definitely hit the Muppet Christmas Carol back down pretty hard, which was my number 1. And I think we talked about it on that episode very recently, so I won't go too into it, but this is the movie I've watched the most of any of these. It's my family's Christmas movie that we return to, along with Home Alone and Christmas Vacation. But I mean, this one to me is just really comforting and has a family connection to it. And I even watch my little son point to the Disney Plus screen wanting that. He's watched it about 3 times since we even did the podcast. It's already translating and passing down. So there's something really magnetic and special about that. So I'm totally biased in saying that. Objectively, yes, 12 Angry Men, Beauty and the Beast, and The Exorcist, and some other movies that are ranked really high up are great. It's just hard to get around those things that, they wrap their hands around your heart.
What did you guys rank? I have a feeling I may have potentially tanked another top candidate, because I ranked Beauty and the Beast 14.
It had a shot. It had a shot, for sure.
I was 11.
4, 11, and 3.
Oh,
Russell
okay.
was 3. I was number 4. It's my wife's favorite movie of all time, so that has some influence. But yeah, number 14. You tanked. You almost tanked The Exorcist.
I do think you tanked 12 Angry Men as well. So.
Oh yeah. You definitely. We've been over this. Frye insisted on this movie, and I did not want it at all. And I now think it's one of the top 5 best movies I've ever seen. It was my number 1.
We got a short list from a high school friend of ours, and I sent out a text. I was like, we're doing 12 Angry Men, right? We're doing 12 Angry Men, right? So we did 12 Angry Men. This movie is like a banned book for me. I mean, this is everyone must watch this. It is important to the world that everyone see this movie. It is a message that needs to be... I remember the first time I watched it, it blew my mind. Can I talk about Sunshine real quick before we go into that? Sunshine was at the behest of a fellow host, past host, John Flack, had me watch this movie. And it's one of the movies that literally changed my perception of how I've watched movies. This movie, I'm happy that everybody had it so high, because it really was that good. It is such a good movie, and no one ever talks about it. This is going to go down as one of the most unrealized, fantastic movies of all time. And to our audience, if you have not watched Sunshine yet, please do.
It was on my queue for years, because once Ex Machina came out, I was like, who is this Alex Garland guy? Oh, okay, he's the guy who did 28 Days Later. But then I was just like, I need more from this guy. And you're right, Frye. When I got to it, it was so rewarding. It's just like, I'm I'm
The
game.
movie is phenomenal.
If Alex Garland puts his name on it, I'm there every time now because Ex Machina was so good and Sunshine was so good.
I was the low man here at 16, but I passed it on immediately. I have a sci-fi friend that I said, hey, watch this movie. I just had 15 other movies that I liked better, but this is excellent. It was new to me. It was something that I was excited about. So I'm so grateful to this podcast for introducing me to stuff like 12 Angry Men, Sunshine, even the dealer's choices, the Lauras, the Stand and Delivers, everything that's new to me that I'm enjoying.
I was basically ready to defend Sunshine to my death. Like, it was going to be the hill I stood on.
Didn't need to.
Like, before the ratings were compiled, I was like, this is the hill I die on.
Stand down, sir.
So the fact that it came out at number 5, I was like,
yeah. Speaking of passing it on, when I was watching this movie, my roommate came home from work and I was maybe 15 or 20 minutes in. And he just asked a question, and by the time I gave him an answer, he'd already sat down on the couch, and he just sat there and watched the rest of the movie with me. Like, he was like, he'd never heard of it. Even though I love the cast, like, he's somebody that wouldn't recognize who Michelle Yeoh is. He's young. So, like, it was incredible. It was a big surprise for me how great Sunshine was.
Yeah. Now, as we transition out of this, what was your favorite dealer's choice that somebody else from the crew here of the Knights of the Round Table suggested for you? Chad, what was that for you?
So my favorite dealer's choice that was outside of my selection was the Pink Panther. I thought it was hilarious. I'm glad I was introduced to it. I had a great time on the episode, just recounting the scenes and laughing along with the ridiculousness, the car chase, the gorilla suits. I loved everything about this movie that I immediately watched the sequel. Great choice, Russell.
All right. Dustin, what about you? What was your favorite dealer's choice that wasn't selected by you?
My favorite, my highest ranking, and I gave it the number 2 ranking in my list, was Monty Python and the Holy Grail. When watching it and during the episode, I realized just how important that movie was to my own sense of humor. Like, the things that I find funny, probably, like, I think I said it on the podcast as, I don't remember a time when Monty Python wasn't in my life. Like, because this started, like, my clock of memories as to what I find funny or the type of things I like to see, whether it's silliness or a really clever joke. So it's definitely that. If you were asking about, like, a movie that was introduced to me through Dealer's Choice, it would be Laura.
And there was much rejoicing.
Yeah. Frye, what about you?
I would say Laura would probably be my number 1 based on rankings, but I will also give a nod to Chad's Loved Ones. I don't think I ever would have stumbled across this movie if it hadn't come across my screen for Retro Movie Roundtable. So hats off to both of those.
And I'm going to kind of treat it like Dustin did. Beauty and the Beast is something I was well acquainted with, so it was my favorite of the dealer's choices. That was one that Chad had selected, but I kind of put the Star Trek series down after Star Trek 5, and I hadn't really continued on, so Nathan kind of urged me to go a little bit deeper, and I got really back on board and had a fun time with Star Trek 6. That was a very fun episode to be part of, even though I was very much out of my element, and I was out Star Trekked by 2 people who were hardcore. I now know what it feels like when I talk Bond around other people.
I'll be honest with you, Russ. Like, we're not, or at least I'm not. Like, I'm very much a dilettante when it comes to it. Like, I like what I like. I don't really do a whole lot of background on my stuff. Not like I used to do with Star Trek or Star Wars.
Yeah, Russell, you think that's rough? Try being the host of the Dune episode with Brian and Ben.
Oh yeah, the Brothers Frye. Yes,
that was something.
It's how I felt. I love the Muppets, but how I felt on the Muppets episode, I was editing this for Russell and Dustin as they're just waxing poetic about all these things. I'm like, man, I sound joyless in this. I love the movie, but you guys are just like small
children. It's like
children.
our favorite thing.
So excited for everything.
Yeah, it's true. All right, it's superlative time, and this is a really fun part of the show. Of all the movies we watched this year, let's kick this off. Best Director. Our newest host to join us this year at the round table is Dustin. So Dustin, take this first. Best Director.
I'm gonna go in this direction because we actually didn't mention the movie at all, based on like where it was in the tier list. I'm gonna go with Francis Ford Coppola for Apocalypse Now.
Oh, okay, yeah. Is that the redo?
No, and I don't know which version I watched. I know I didn't watch the same version as the other guys. I had a couple choices here, and I was just thinking and I'm not going to go back into my analysis of the movie, but of turning what that story is, and making it as compelling as it was. I think, and I remember on one of the first couple episodes, I ended up asking you, Russell, like, how do I tell who's a good director? And you like gave me advice. So I'm going to go with like what Francis Ford Coppola's vision was for what this movie and how the story's told was amazing. Even though the final product I didn't actually like give a very high ranking to, I think that's what I'm going to go with as far as impact on final product. Coppola for Apocalypse Now.
That's a very good choice. This is not my sweet spot at all in the military. It's funny, when we started this, I was like, I don't like Westerns or romances, and there's certain things that I'm going to do it all. And it's funny, as things have shuffled around, and I've come to realize, it's like, I think, maybe that war military spectrum is probably one of the ones that I have the hardest time with, but I was drawn to this movie, and I think a lot of it has to do with Ford Coppola, so that's a great choice. Chad, Best Director.
So I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Frye can help me out, or Russell, you were on the episode. I think it's Sidney Lumet for
Lumet.
12 Angry Men.
It's just Lumet.
Lumet.
Oh,
Okay,
Lumet.
so not French. Sidney Lumet, 12 Angry Men. I've talked about it already. I just thought this was a masterpiece, and it was masterfully directed.
It's very hard to do a good job of keeping everybody's attention and in one room with face shots and just enormous amounts of dialogue. And you're right, he built that tension up. It's thrilling.
It's an amazing movie. It's an amazing success of less is more. That's from an aesthetic standpoint, like, not to gush too much about this movie, but it combines the successful nature of a movie like Blair Witch or Devil or Phone Booth, where you have very low cost in terms of setting, with the fact that it's actual impactful plot.
Is this one yours as well, Brian?
Oh, my best director was Martin Scorsese. I can't believe we haven't talked about The Departed yet, but because my superlatives are so loaded toward The Departed. The Departed is the closest thing I've ever seen to a 100% complete movie. It is so difficult to find a flaw with that film. I give directorship credit hardcore to Scorsese for that.
I agree with you. Russell does not. He gave it a 20. But yeah, that's fantastic, and that was probably my number 2.
I know I liked it. It's just we do good movies, so it's tough to battle over each other. It is a good movie, and it's well directed as well. So my best director was the movie that we selected as the best movie this year as a group, and it's The Exorcist, and that's William Friedkin. He's a madman. He mistreats his actors, but you can't argue with the results. He might know something that we don't know. Fire guns off behind your actors' heads, give them spinal injuries by yanking them too hard on their supports, and constantly slap people, just to get them to be shaky and stuff like that. It's really extreme, and I feel bad for endorsing this, but the results speak for themselves. The Exorcist is a very well-made movie, and I believe it elevated the entire genre up for generations to come. So big impact, and he played the game at a very high level when people weren't playing it at that necessarily that high of a level.
Yeah, getting 70s horror nominated for Academy Awards is an accomplishment that speaks for itself.
I love what he did with the Exorcist. If I can just add in the caveat, I don't know what the full opinion of Retro Movie Roundtable is, but from at least your newest host, Dustin, I'm going to go with fewer guns on set, please. Thinking about like Baldwin in the year 2021. We don't need it.
Yeah.
We don't abuse your actors, period. Do not physically harm them, intimidate them, or otherwise.
Yeah, and Brandon Lee too. That didn't go so well for him.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
Best cast. Now this is an ensemble cast, so top to bottom, this is an ensemble award. Dustin.
Well, you asked me first, but I'm wondering if I'm going to beat Brian to it. It's The Departed, the ensemble cast. Absolutely.
Brian has his eyebrows high and he's nodding his head lightly.
I will give a very, very emphatic second place. It's the only thing that I did a second place for, was for Sunshine. Sunshine's
It's so
cast
good.
was phenomenal.
And they work
Yeah.
well
Like-
together. You're right. That's a good
like,
point.
The Departed got chops, and they were all worthy of it. And Sunshine's cast was so good. I mean, Chris Evans had a very compelling character in this before he was.
This was 4 years before Captain America.
Is this his best acting performance? I think it is. I'm just.
I think that it's why he's considered for a lot of the parts that he gets considered for. I think it's definitely a positive toward his.
Was he good in Knives Out?
Yes. Yeah, he was great.
Can't remember him being good or not. In that movie.
It's more satirical, but yeah.
Chad, best ensemble cast.
This is probably cheating since they're a comedy troupe, but Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
That is
Yeah.
very. Yeah, that helps. Yeah.
I love the Python crew, and when they add it, they usually don't add women to their comedy, but the female additions were also great contributors. So not only the normal crew, but the extras they bring in, loved it.
I had a hard time. I had a lot of people, or a lot of movies, I should say, that, 12 Angry Men was certainly a candidate. The Exorcist was great top to bottom. Pink Panther was really great inside and out on that one. But the Little Shop of Horrors, when that episode came around and I had to recast somebody, it's golden, and it's hard to recast anybody. Little moments of characters that get like 2 lines are very good actors. People like Bill Murray and Christopher Guest are just popping in. John Candy. I mean, it's deep in terms of the talent level. They're all very funny, and they're playing off of each other so well. And they have to sing as well as be funny. So Little Shop of Horrors gets my vote for best cast.
My, what a strange and unusual looking plant.
Best actor, Dustin.
It's Leo, right? He's on our list 3 times.
Yeah.
And Kevin Costner's on our list a lot
Yeah.
too, right? But if I had to pick between them, and I'm no Kevin Costner down player. I like him too, Frye, but
I'll downplay him.
I'm gonna go with Leo here.
I know you do, but you know what? He keeps coming up in stuff, Russ. I think you need to maybe reconsider that you're just wrong.
I think he's in good movies, but I think he's an average actor who met a certain physical set of traits that led him to being in movies at that time. I think he was the right guy in the right place at the right time, but I don't know that I don't think he's a great actor. I mean, he got nominated for a Razzie in Robin Hood there, and I honestly thought his role in JFK was it was an ambitious movie, but I felt like it could have been played by other people as well.
Does it seem like he's dumb
Me?
and that the character? No, not Russell.
I mean, you said it. We didn't.
Frye's like, yes, Russell's very dumb for that bad, dumb comment. He's a dummy head.
I love
Hey,
that. That's where you went with it. I was like,
Hey,
he
shut
said
up over there.
something
You-
very
Brian,
like,
does it seem like Russell's
extra
dumb?
out here, and then you were like, me, and I was like, wow.
Chad's like,
No,
Frye's
just-
like, yeah, well, after that bad opinion.
No,
Chad,
I mean,
best
honestly.
Chad, best actor.
Best actor for me was Henry Fonda. I'm going back to 12 Angry Men one last time. His performance was captivating. It standing against the crowd and just being kind of the stage play. He doesn't have a whole lot to work with. There aren't props. There's not much of a set. And I was just thrilled the entire time. The close-ups where he's sweating, the nervous glances, everything. Just fascinating.
Yeah. Now, Frye, you said you picked DiCaprio as well from The Departed, but
I did.
yeah.
But I would say that everything Chad said is 100% correct. I actually think that DiCaprio, this should have been his best actor nod. This should have been the one he won.
should have been one of them.
He's been shafted a number of times.
Yes.
But this is the one where I was like, are you kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
The Departed was a special movie. And I understand that with The Godfather and other things, like gangster movies are not unpopular with the Academy. But this was one of those movies where I'm like, I don't know how you think. I don't care to know how you think. And it just pushed me further and further away from whatever their opinion might be.
And DiCaprio was my pick as well, so I'll just give a couple of nods for I think you guys stated it well. So I had considered Martin Sheen in Apocalypse Now as my runner-up. In a movie with Martin Brando, he took over. He was awesome. Jason Miller in The Exorcist was great. I also had Peter Fonda as a candidate, Robert Redford in The Sting, and Edward James Olmos in Stand and Deliver. These were some of the ones that stood out for me as runner-ups. So
I'll even say that Martin Sheen's character in The Departed was a very good one, too.
Oh, I love it when we have the same actor appearing multiple times in the year. So, Best Actress. You know what, Frye? You've had your thunder stolen by Dustin a lot. Why don't you take this one first? You can go Best Actress first.
I went with Maddie Chung from Hero.
Yeah.
Oh, and you stole his thunder.
No, that was my choice in that episode. But like Maggie Chung, incredible in that movie.
Okay.
Every time I go back to Hero or House of Flying Daggers, we had talked about it briefly before the episode started. The mythology and folklore of Chinese culture is just gorgeous, and she personifies what makes it that beautiful.
Nice. Yeah.
Just hats off across the board on how well that went.
Chad, Best Actress.
I'm not a Nicole Kidman fan, but I have to give it to her for To Die For. She was absolutely incredible and maniacal and sinister and cold and just
All over.
All over the board, yes, because she changed her hair color.
But she's also like charismatic and turns on the charm, which is creepy that she can do it at a moment's notice.
Yeah,
Awesome.
she is a true psychopath, and it was awesome.
That's a great choice. I mean, I'm also not normally a Nicole Kidman fan, but boy, she was good in that one. So that's a great choice. Dustin, what about you?
Nicole Kidman was my runner-up, and I want to at least. I think we all know Frances McDormand's good, so I skipped Frances McDormand to go with Ellen Greene as my Best Actress for that role, which I think will be hers forever. I believe when we did the episode, we talked about like. That question was posed, would you want to see like a reboot of this movie? And I said no. And I don't know if it could ever be taken away, like that role, her portrayal of an odd type of character. I think it's the only bimbo character I've ever liked in a movie. To use that word, I don't like to use that word, but like it's a likable bimbo. Strange.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going with Ellen Greene. She deserves her flowers.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that you mentioned Frances McDormand. Even though I didn't have Fargo ranked very high, I picked Frances McDormand. I just think that there was something that I think she's why that movie is, lauded and held up so high. I mean, it's just something so unexpected, and she's larger than life in it, and she was awarded for it. So I did like Jean Tierney a lot in Laura. And working girl Melanie Griffith was very good. And young actor Linda Blair was solid in The Exorcist too. So these are some other ones that were just ruminating in my head. So Best Supporting Actor on the year. Let's go with you, Dustin.
Clifton Webb as Waldo Lydecker. Just absolute in Laura. Just absolutely stole every scene he was in. I read up a little bit about him because of that movie. I really don't know if I can stumble through the words to describe just how, I don't know, surprised or just pleasantly encaptured by just the quick wit of the... And sometimes it's like, oh, that's just a well-written character. Or sometimes it was just delivered perfectly, and I think in this case it was both.
Yeah, he was very sharp in his performance on that one. Chad, what about you? What's your Best Supporting Actor?
Matthew Lillard as Stu in Scream.
I knew this. I knew
You're
it.
a little woozy, man.
Yeah.
My mom and dad are gonna kill me.
Yes, they're gonna be so mad at me. Yes, Danny DeVito was really, really close, but Matthew Lillard, man, he's the best part of great movies that he's in, and even bad movies. And the character of Stu is so off the wall. I hope the fan theories are true. I hope he comes back for Scream 5. I don't even care how. Just please bring him back.
Agreed.
All right, Brian, Best Supporting Actor.
This is why I was shaking my head at Dustin earlier. My best supporting is Edward James Olmos in Blade Runner.
Barf.
His quiet participation in both sides of this movie was so compelling to me, not just in the fact that he was doing his job and thought he could do it better than Harrison Ford's, but he also understood what Harrison Ford was going through and ended up helping him in the end non-verbally. Like, everything that went through him was very well played from this is a guy you don't pay attention to, but he's the guy you should have been paying attention to.
So my best supporting actor, I looked pretty hard at Gene Hackman in Get Shorty, Paul Newman in The Sting, Steve Martin in Little Shop of Horrors, and Lee J. Cobb in 12 Angry Men. But my pick's going to go to Peter Sellers from the Pink Panther. He ends up taking over the franchise. He is a supporting actor who ends up taking over the movie and kind of becoming, the main guy in the movie, even though it wasn't even his vehicle. That's a hard thing to do, to upstage a bigger actor at the time, and David Niven. And he's just brilliant. He's physically funny. His delivery is very sharp, and he's calculated, and he's a very good comedian, both in how he deals with things with seriousness and deadpan working, but being very goofy, very physical. And so I am a comedy fan, and I think Peter Sellers is doing it in high form here. So
That's a great choice, yeah.
Best supporting actress, Dustin.
I'm actually going to take our guest's choice from the Titanic podcast, which was Kathy Bates in her role. I'll just say to all of our listeners, listen to the Titanic episode with me and Nathan, and listen to our wonderful guest's analysis there.
Yeah, and also listen to the Rat Race episode, and don't forget to buy a squirrel. Chad, best supporting actress.
Am I allowed to count Janet Leigh in Psycho?
She's the main actress at the top billed person, isn't she?
So I'm going with that. Without her, we don't get the impact of Drew Barrymore in Scream. It's clearly the same type of influence. So Janet Leigh was my pick.
I'm going to have a question for mine as well when the time rolls around. Frye, what about you, the best supporting actress?
That makes me think your pick is Miss Piggy.
So would you consider Ellen Greene a supporting role for best supporting actress in Little Shop of Horrors? Because that's who I think I want to pick here.
She deserves the credit, however you get it to her, but I wouldn't call her supporting.
Okay.
I'd be okay with it because we need to talk more about that movie, but I would have been okay if you'd said the Audrey 3000 too.
The Audrey 3000 Outcast?
Not Andre 2000. Not Andre 4000.
Ellen Greene is my pick here because her vocal delivery, her performance, as Dustin pointed out earlier when he picked her for Best Actress, was great. And if you don't call that a supporting role, then that's fine. I think Capucine from Pink Panther was also very funny, very beautiful, and she was really good playing off of Peter Sellers in that, as well as David Niven. So underappreciated on that one. And also Rita Moreno as Anita in West Side Story. She was awesome.
Yes, she was great.
Frye?
I think what I'm going to go with this is Michelle Yeoh from Sunshine. I do feel like she had a little bit of a deeper dive than some of the other actors and actresses that were in that film. Her point as the botanist was very compelling.
Yep, that's a great pick. And now I considered that one as well. Now this is a fun one. Sexiest female performance from Retro Movie Roundtable this year. Now this is only the movies we watched on the podcast this year. Dustin, lead the way.
This was the most fun category to think about, I'll tell you that. But my number one, I think I have to go with, is Sharon Stone in The Quick and the Dead.
Yeah, I like it.
Keep in mind, I'm down here in Texas. That's how I like my women, y'all.
That's a great
Quick
pick.
and Dead?
She was quick in living, though.
Yes.
All right.
All right, Chad.
Quick and Dead.
Yes, Chad. Sexiest female.
This is an odd one because, she was not dressed in a sexy manner or anything, but I still have to go with Rose Byrne in Sunshine. She's just a beautiful woman.
Yeah.
They are not playing that card here. She's there to do a great job, and I appreciate that, but she's beautiful.
Yep.
That's a nice choice.
1000% agree with you.
Yeah.
So Rose was actually my runner-up. I'm going to go with Nicole Kidman for To Die For because I know that's what they were going for.
Yep.
Oh, nope,
And
nope.
I actually find Nicole Kidman is one of the most dangerous-looking women I've ever seen.
Yes,
Like,
she looks like a praying mantis.
Yeah, if it comes down to it, like she's not my type at all. But I understand what they go for with that, and so I give it its due diligence.
Well, she's supposed to be an irresistible type beauty in that movie. Like it, yeah.
I see it.
This was a tough one. Obviously, the entire Scream cast gets a shout out. Like that was a movie that had like 5 beautiful women in it, or four or five anyway. And I got to make Chad groan by at least considering Tanya Roberts was a close call here.
I understand.
Oh, I figured you were gonna go, oh, because you hate Tanya
The
Roberts.
movie was bad,
Yeah.
but there are a lot of beautiful women in bad Bond movies.
Yeah, and the Pink Panther also was another one where 2 women in that were really beautiful as well. And but I gotta go with the mysterious, sultry Jean Tierney from Laura.
Yeah, beautiful.
For a second, I thought you were going to say Janine Garofalo.
You know, I liked
The
Janine at
Bowler.
that era, so I mean, that also is up my. I like a lot of things. I don't know what to tell you, so.
All ears, Russ.
Now, because our audiences might be male or female or different. You know, it's time to pick the sexiest male. People laugh at this segment a lot, but we're going it anyway. Dustin, sexiest male.
This was my second favorite category to do. I'm gonna do. My answer here is I had several choices, but mine is George Chakiris as Bernardo in West Side Story, because
Oh.
that was what I'm doing here is I'm like reminding myself of like how I used to feel like I looked or dressed, and so like that dude as a young Latino heartthrob, very cool, and so he's my sexiest male.
They seem way cooler than the opposing gang. I will give you that
They
for
are.
sure. Yeah.
Yes.
Now,
See,
Chad, your choice here, sexiest male character from Retro Movie Roundtable 2021.
I had a much easier time with this one than I did with the sexiest female. Yeah, Chris Evans. He's a handsome man. I'm going back to Sunshine. This is a great looking cast. You could have picked just about anyone from this cast.
It is a lot of pretty people. It is a lot of pretty people.
Even over George Clooney. Chris Evans, you win.
All right. And Bryan.
I actually went Sunshine as well, but a different direction. It's Harakiri Sanada.
the captain.
Yeah.
Oh.
I actually think he's a very handsome man. I
agree.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, like, whether it's Last Samurai
He
or
plays my
Sunshine,
favorite character in Last Samurai.
yeah, it's just one of those things where I'm like, you are a handsome man, sir.
Yeah.
Well done.
Fry shakes your hand and says, good job. Making the world look better.
Yeah. So, Harakiri Sanada.
Yeah. And mine is a double performance, double helping of Harrison Ford. He did Working Girl and Blade Runner. And so you get the rugged, tough side, but you also get the more sensitive, understanding side at the same time. You can have both with Harrison Ford.
Russell says, I love you. Harrison Ford says, I know.
Yeah, I know. And in a year with no Indiana Jones, I might add, we got to fix that and finish the trilogy off next year. So, biggest thrill, Dustin.
This movie also was not mentioned in our rundown, which is why I'm going with it among my list. It is when Tetsuo begins to transform, and I won't say more, towards the ending of Akira. It's an animated movie, so it didn't qualify for most of the stuff we were doing. When that happens is thrilling and terrifying on a scale that can't really be done without the animation part of it. So if you haven't seen it, transformation is all I'm gonna say,
Yeah.
because it's wild.
And if you have seen it, you need to check out the South Park Trapper Keeper episode.
Ugh.
We
gross.
are Trapper Keeper. What are you doing, Cal?
My backup was in Fargo when Grimsrud, played by Stormare, when he finally goes like hunter-killer mode after being in the car with Steve Buscemi for so long. That's an awesome thrill as well.
Yeah, you knew he had that in him, for sure. Chad, biggest thrill.
We didn't really talk about Frye's Dealer's Choice, the international, but you know what? The shootout in the Guggenheim was awesome. The rest of the movie didn't quite live up to that scene, but I was there for that.
That's a great choice. Oh, wow. Well, I picked another direction, which is good for listening. So I'm gonna go with Psycho as they enter the Bates house that overlooks the motel. That's a very intense scene. I won't say more than that, but I am at the edge of my seat in that. So, Frye, this is your territory. That's why I saved it for you for last. This is your, you like the thrilling movies and the action movies the most. What's your biggest thrill?
I also put up Guggenheim.
A Guggenheim shootout.
I feel like that is still, like, the reason I put up that movie was two-part. One, that it's a visual feast, and two, that when it does have an exclamation point, it is a very, very heavy exclamation point. And the Guggenheim really sums up that movie in terms of where it really lands. It's that movie's most poignant moment and the reason it was my dealer's choice. So yeah, most certainly.
I mean, it's up there with one of my favorite shootouts of all time. I mean, I think that's always going to be reserved for all the bullet time that they did in The Matrix, but I mean, it is up there for me.
Winter Soldier on the overpass is
I love
good.
that too. Yeah, I love that
shootout.
too.
Yeah. Now, biggest laugh. Frye, why don't we do this one first for you, because this is a hard one for you. You can take this one first. Biggest laugh.
It's the rabbit in Monty Python. Like, I know it's classic.
Monty.
Like, I get it, but it is that because it's dark and messed up, man. It's rabbit just gnawing people's freaking
Beast of
throats out.
I told you.
Like,
I told you.
Like,
You made Chad a very happy man.
Oh, there are pieces of that movie that I love dearly. It's not the whole movie, but there are pieces of that movie where I'm like, there's somebody in the writing of this gets me. It's not all of you. It's some of you. And I love knowing that they're there.
I like Frye cherry picking his laughs with the Monty Python crew. Chad says, no, all of it's good. But
Yes.
biggest laugh, Dustin.
So for mine, there's the absolute biggest laugh, and then there's the line that I think was the cleverest, which was not uttered as a joke. It was in the newspaper for, I believe, Runaway Bride. The headline or the front page says, "Hardware honey goes nuts and bolts."
I knew that was coming.
It's the best comedic line I think in that whole movie, and maybe that I've seen written. Anyway, that being aside, the biggest actual laugh for me is when Lancelot is running at Castle Swamp with the timpani drums, and it happens over and over and over. I fell on the ground laughing this time, as I do every time. It's just great.
Yes. And my biggest laugh is going to go to the Pink Panther scene where David Niven is hiding in a hotel room that he shouldn't be in after leaving his hotel room, which has other funny things that I shouldn't say too much going on to it. And Peter Sellers is a bumbling idiot stumbling through, and Capucine is trying to hide who's hiding in her hotel room. So they dash around from behind curtains, under bed, in baths, on balconies, and they're rotating between these two hotel rooms, and all the characters are unaware of each other for the most part, and they have conflicting goals. It's very Marx Brothers-esque, and it's very, very, very funny, and it just keeps going on and building, and like they play more and more cards off of each other. I think it was rewarding because I hadn't seen this movie before we did it this year. So when we got to it was just like, wow, this is great.
That was a great scene, and I went to the Pink Panther well in addition. So I went with the car chase scene. You know, I'm dumb. I'm stupid. You put a gorilla in a car at one point or chasing a car, I will be up for it. And that is probably the hardest I've laughed. I'm not usually a laugh out loud person. Go see a movie with Frye. It's so much better. His laugh is great, and it makes me laugh. But this made me laugh out loud quite a bit.
All right, now this is a sad award. We have to give these out. But what movie didn't hold up over time? Why don't we start with you, Dustin?
Runaway Bride doesn't hold up at all.
It's the butterfly clips in the hair that bothered you in that episode,
How
right?
dare you?
That's huge. The print media doesn't hold up. The relationship between the man and woman, the like interaction between those two is poor. The use of alcoholism as a joke set up to move forward the plot is abhorrent. There's a lot that's bad, and I know I was mostly positive for that movie, but that movie really doesn't hold up at all.
Wow, okay. Yeah, so the army of Gary Marshall fans, of which there are many, are a little upset right now. But Chad, if anybody's good at doing this one, what's it going to be for you?
Now is my time to shine and destroy your childhood memories. Flight of the Navigator was terrible. It was terrible when you saw it as a child. It's terrible as an adult now. It's dated effects, bad acting, and painful dialogue. Your movie is terrible.
Wow,
Go off, King.
Man, that was fast, furious, and
I love how succinct it was. It was super
This is the moment he'd been waiting for all night long of all the things. Yeah. All right.
Can we edit in like a hip hop track behind him?
Did you ever see the movie The Hunted, where Benicio del Toro cuts all your organs in one swift motion before the finishing move? That's what just
happened to Flight of the Navigator by Chad. My goodness, eviscerated, entrails everywhere. All right, Brian, what movie didn't hold up for you?
View to a Kill. I still can't believe how weak that movie is, going back and watching it again. I instinctively shy away from Roger Moore Bond movies just based on the Overwatch factor of my childhood and the fact that I like other Bonds better. But dude, going back and watching it again, I'm just he
can't articulate the angers there though. Oh man,
it's the Peter Griffin just repeated holding your knee going.
It is, and that movie had so much promise. There were actors and actresses in that movie that could have been great, but that movie was suspect.
Yeah, Grace Jones was fourth runner up for my sexiest female too.
Yeah,
dude, that's fine. Christopher Walken as a villain. Fantastic. I'm all for it. But that movie was...
Man, that was a kick in my crotch. I have to go after that. That's hard. I mean, I got to catch my breath here. That hurt. JFK was my choice for this one. I thought that this movie got a lot of accolades. This is not a popular opinion, but I think Oliver Stone films might be overrated. And this one was really long, and the whole conspiracy that it was being based on is we gave a whole movie to something that was so shaky to begin with, and they went out and got tons of actors, and a lot of people wanted to be in this. And I just got to say, after aging it a long time, I feel like this one got blown up at the time. It just seemed like it was a collection of big names at the time, and I don't know that this is necessarily got the clout that it was rated to have at the time. So this is, for me, the essence of didn't hold up over time. For me.
I'll sign off on the Oliver Stone opinion. Yep.
Oh, wow. I have company there.
I'm not against it.
Yeah, I think it's consensus, y'all.
Oh. Wow. I expected to be on an island on this one.
No, I'm not against it. I think that most of my enjoyment of this movie is the fact that when they made it, it was posting a separate opinion, not one that I agree with, but just, they made this movie as a addendum to a point in time.
Yeah. Now, best new discovery. What this means is it's a movie you had not seen prior to coming to it on Retro Movie Roundtable this year. Dustin, why don't you take this one first?
I don't know if I'll be alone with this one, but I wrote down Sunshine, parenthesis, particularly the cast. Just blew me away.
Yeah, we mentioned the ensemble cast earlier being a really good choice for you. That's a great choice. I mean, I was clamoring to see it, so that was high. I got high marks for me too. Frye, why don't you take this one next? What was your best new discovery this year?
Just based on the fact that what it drudged up in terms of what I've been doing recently, watching recently, and reading recently, I went with The Long Goodbye on this. It really was a changer for my year. Just what I was going after, and I've got to give it a nod for that.
Nice.
Okay, yeah. Chad, best new discovery.
I mean, given the amount of crow I've had to eat on this one, it has to be 12 Angry Men. It was my number one movie after not wanting to see it and being angry at Bryan for choosing it. Other standouts, Pink Panther, Stand and Deliver, Muppets Christmas Carol was new to me, Get Shorty, Silverado, and Sunshine. It was a great...
Zero crow for me.
It was a great year for me to get introduced to a lot of these movies, and a lot of them are choices that other people made for me. And I might have even been irritated at the time, but hey, these wound up great. I was glad to be introduced to them.
Absolutely.
We did a lot of Oliver Stone this year.
Yeah, we could slow down on that in the future.
You hear that, guests? Please stop.
Yeah. Somebody's about to come to us with I got a 3 Oliver Stone shortlist for you.
Alexander.
And I will be on vacation that week. Yeah. So for me, my best new discovery movie was 12 Angry Men as well. But like Chad, I really enjoyed catching a number of movies for the first time this year, including Working Girl, Sunshine, Out of Towners, The Sting, Silverado, Out of Sight. Star Trek 6 really was one of the better ones of that series. To Die For was a surprise hit for me. And The International was, I mean, like I said, I think Chad put it well. There's uneven moments, but boy, when it's good, it's good. The Adjustment Bureau. I mean, these were all new ones to me. There were a few other new ones in there as well, but this was a good year for me. This is why I do this podcast, to spend time with my best friends talking about movies and learning to appreciate movies at a higher level, but also to discover the great movies out there and why they're great. And it was a very rewarding year for the podcast. So
That's a nice way to put that. I want to say, I didn't realize that 2 of you had never seen 12 Angry Men before. Clearly, Bryan, you knew its impact.
Oh,
and
yeah.
as I mentioned, it has been a part, like I watched it in high school, and, you know, I was a former career of mine. I was in criminal justice for 12 years. So when it comes to jurists and when it comes to like what goes on behind the scenes at the courtroom, like there's things that, like, 12 Angry Men already made its impact on me 20 years ago. So, like, had you been talking to 16-year-old Dustin, maybe it would have been our consensus number 1 pick because of how high I would have ranked it. It's like I said, an hour ago, it's lessons that already been imprinted on me.
okay.
No, I grew up with 2 lawyers, so it was one of those things that
Yeah,
that
It was required reading.
I did a lot of John Grisham in my youth, but no, I completely agree with you, and the fact that Chad and Russell had their moments with this, like, that's awesome, because it is an impactful movie. It's something everyone should see.
yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate the scheduling conflict that was forced upon Chad by Bryan was about to have a baby. Like, he got that episode out right before baby came out. It was just like he got done recording 12 Angry Men and boom, he had his first baby. Not him, his wife did, but still, like,
Right.
I mean,
That was
and then Frye also had some difficult conflicts. So Chad's misfortune was my fortune. So thank you for dropping that one in my lap. That was great.
I was sad to miss out on that one.
I love the reaction though. Like, Chad messaged me real quick, like, this movie's great, and I was like, yeah.
And I hadn't seen it at that point either, because, like, I was kind of coming in. I had a lot of homework to do quick. I was just like, man, I gotta bring my A game fast on this one. And then I got into this. I watched it and I was just like, oh, this is an unexpected treat.
Oh, I listened to that episode pretty much as soon as it was released, and I was waiting for the rankings of, like, don't screw this up, Russell, don't screw this up. And he said 5 stars. I'm like, okay.
It's a phenomenal movie.
I can sleep
It is.
tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, this is a fun one to do. Most Improved. So this is a movie you did see before Retro Movie Roundtable this year, but you like it more now. Dustin.
I'm going to compare this to Brandon Ingram, the NBA player out of Duke, who was like a number 2 overall pick and then won the most improved player the next year. Is that if a movie's already good and then, like, it gets skyrocketed to being great, like, it seems like most improved should be reserved for something that's like, okay, and now it's better. So for me, it's weird to say that the most improved by rewatching was Scream, my number 1 movie. I already knew it was good. I didn't realize it was perfect.
Great choice.
That's a
Chad,
great answer.
I don't think that's possible for you because you already held it in the highest of high regard. Chad, do you have a most improved?
I honestly considered Scream as well because I've watched it so many times, but everything happening in the background. Invasion of the Body Snatchers is another one where there's just a lot going on. Technically, for me, I expected A View to a Kill to be in my bottom 5. It made it to number 35, so I guess I've got to give it a little bit of a bone. It's still one of my least favorite Bond movies, but it didn't wind up being the worst on my list.
Wow.
Dustin's answer is the right answer, though. Scream is perfection.
Frye kicked me in the crotch earlier by picking it to the didn't hold up over time award for him. That's a nice pack for my sore crotch.
Oh, it's still bad. There just happen to be 11 worst movies.
Stop mentioning crotch.
Crotch. More words. Crotch. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Anyway, Bryan, what is your most improved?
You know, I went Beauty and the Beast on this, not because there was anything wrong with it in the first place, but because it was the first time I had watched it since I was a child. Man, you want to talk about falling in love with a movie that is basically impervious to criticism? That's a lovely thing. It's such a beautiful movie. And if anything, it's more bringing it back around to my attention and then also being excited to expose my daughter to it.
Yeah, that was a great episode. It was so heartwarming hearing Frye warm up to this movie. I'm like, I was so worried.
Those were, I think
It's
I
a
think
gorgeous
two of them
movie.
have been mentioned that were mine, and I was waffling between the two, but you guys took them both. I mean, Scream was one that Mary did not really enjoy. My wife, I think I liked it, but I didn't necessarily fully appreciate it. It rewatches very well. Like, it plays over and over again. In fact, I think you can appreciate things upon further rewatches that you didn't get the first time. And I need to keep going with the series. I've only seen the first one, and I'm interested again because it's kind of rekindled my interest on this one. It is very good. And then, like Bryan mentioned, I keep going away from Beauty and the Beast for large chunks of time, but I always fall in love with it again. Like, I've seen it in Broadway format. I've seen the remake with Emma Watson, the live action version. Every time I get reintroduced or every time it gets put in front of me again, I have this like, wow, that's great. And why have I not watched it in, I don't know, 5-6 years or whatever? And it's funny how it just keeps making you, I don't know, forget how good it is.
It's timeless. It really is timeless. It is truly timeless.
It just keeps playing well for me at every age. Sometimes you think, like Dustin said, like, oh, I've learned that lesson and I've moved on. But then you come back to it and you go like, it's so good still. So I think Beauty and the Beast gets points for just keeping it alive for me.
Agreed.
Most fun episode you had to record this year, which is no indication of the quality of the movie. You just had fun that episode. It might have been a great guest. You might have had a good meal beforehand. Yeah, and it just might have been this is a fun one, like, to go back and listen to. What one did you have the most fun recording, Dustin?
My previous answers might not have indicated this, but my most fun to record was Runaway Bride.
It's a good episode, actually. I listened to it not so long ago.
It was awesome with Chad and his wife Sarah. It was so much fun, and I don't know what it is. There's a small percentage of it knowing that, as much as positive as I can be, that I was also kind of just being a snake in the grass for an hour and 20 minutes before I could come out and be like, all right, y'all, this was bad. Let's talk about it. So, no, that was a great time, and hopefully you'll have her on again. She was a great guest.
Yeah, she's afraid of being wrong on the internet, whereas I am wrong
On a
the
regular
internet all the
basis,
time.
yeah.
We should keep track of how many names I mispronounce throughout the year. It's an embarrassing amount. Dustin corrected me gently a lot of the times. But yeah, I'm gonna keep doing
and kudos to Frye. I forget who was you said it was your sexiest male selection this year. I was just like, wow, bold pick to even go into pronouncing that. Like, if that had been my pick, I would have just gone on to runner up. It would have been like somebody with the name of Smith.
With all due respect, I probably butchered it. So if I did, please understand that I was saying you're sexy.
Whatever your name is.
Yeah, we're talking to the guy who mispronounces his co-host name this year.
Yes.
Oh, no, on purpose.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, that was a
On
running
several
bit.
episodes. On purpose, several episodes.
Dustin Melbardis?
I actually spent one
Dustin-
episode like working it out. I was like, "What? How will I do it this time?"
So yeah, I was Dustin Melbrand with you, and then Russell. When we were even just pitching me coming on the show, you were like, Melbard Almonius. It was rough.
Yeah, I was toying around with the.
At least mine were like Melbourne. Like I was going like with real words.
Yeah. The most fun episode this year to record, Chad.
I loved so many of my episodes, but I think for me, because it was a horror movie, because it was early on and Dustin was Mr. I'm not going to give a 5-star. I don't give out 5 stars. And to hear it turn, and Bryan was on it as well, and we're just quoting the movie. It's so quotable. And just basking in the perfection that is Scream. That's probably my favorite. That is me stewing in perfection of horror. And I was so happy at the end. I did a touchdown sign when Dustin's like, you know what? Fine, 5 stars. I'm like, yes.
It earned it.
Now, Bryan, what was your most fun you had recording this year?
One of my favorite things to do professionally is to introduce people to something that changes
Like coffee.
their lives.
Congratulations, here's an addiction.
But for me, it was 12 Angry Men. Like the fact that you guys took as much away from it as you did, like that's the reason I do what I do. I mean, everything I watch 1,000 turds to find, 5 good ones, and it's important to me to have that ability to say, look, this is where it's worth it. This is where putting your time in, which is always precious at our age, putting your time in on this is not worthless.
That is something that's a point of pride for you, Frye. I've noticed that with your dealer's choices and everything. Like you've seen more movies than I think the three of us combined. Like you're definitely the most watched of all three of us. So that doesn't surprise me that that's your answer. You definitely like the staff picks, the hidden gems, and the ones that, oh, you didn't know about this? I'm here to tell you something.
That's such a nice sentiment. I do this because I have problems saying no to Russell.
My most fun that I had this year, kind of a two-part. The first one is the 007 movie countdown. I know I'm a broken record. That's just what I love. And I love a countdown, and I love 007, so it was Kismet. And it's a super long episode, but I had a blast on that one. And but in terms of the actual movies that we did, Little Shop of Horrors was just so much fun. I think I got into it because I watched it. I introduced this movie to my dad, who is a dentist, oddly enough, and the Steve Martin character cracked him up in it. And so he had a lot of fun with it, and he was kind of like, how did I miss this? And so I think there was some enjoyment of going back to it. I had a lot of fun on the episode. I love a musical, and I love a comedy. And I had a really fun time with DJ. Was one of our great guests. He's been on a number of times, and he was great that time as well. So it was just a really good episode. So I would recommend to go back and listen to Little Shop of Horror.
Yeah, DJ was good, and I was so glad to we made that work. I actually found time out of my work day. I was like, you guys leave me alone. I need 2.5 hours to go talk about this awesome movie from 1986. Nope, shut up. I'm leaving. All right. And then the president of the company was like, what are you doing in there? I was like, yeah, podcast. Give it a listen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bold move.
I like it. All right.
I lied to him and said it was a sports podcast. I had to get on his good side.
It's a podcast about managing resorts.
Yep. Of which there are. And I have no interest in this.
And this particular episode's about how if you have a man-eating plant, that is no place for that in a resort, because it will eat all of your guests. All right. So, who wants to help me pick a movie for next time? Let's see. Probably Dustin. Dustin.
I'm ready.
We're going to do the new retro. These are the newly inducted movies under our 10-year rule. These are movies from 2012 that are now officially deemed as retro because we are the official board of what is retro here at Retro Movie Roundtable.
10 years.
The Dark Knight Rises from 2012. 8 years after Joker's reign of anarchy, Batman, with the help of the enigmatic Catwoman, is forced from his exile to save Gotham City from a brutal guerrilla terrorist, Bane. Option 2, The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey from 2012. A reluctant hobbit, Bilbo Baggins, sets out to the lonely mountain with a spirited group of dwarves to reclaim their mountain home and with the gold within it from the dragon Smaug. And option 3, Act of Valor from 2012. An elite team of Navy SEALs embark on a covert mission to recover a kidnapped CIA agent.
Kind of can't believe it's been 10 years, so I guess we're going to do The Hobbit.
It was an unexpected choice for an unexpected journey.
An unexpected journey.
All right, and we have all had a fun unexpected journey this year. Thank you guys so much. Dustin, anything you want to tell the people before we close the books on this year?
Yeah, hey, I really appreciate y'all welcoming me in and learning my last name, but we're actually going to switch it up for 2012, and you can call me Dustin Champion.
All right, Chad, what about you, man?
I just enjoy doing this. We had such a tough time last year. We got into a good groove this year. We hit a lot of movies. There's a lot of new stuff. So I'm excited to continue into the new year. We finally get into the world of Lord of the Rings, and I just look forward to your guys' dealer's choices, the challenges that come with all of those, and seeing what you're passionate about. So I look forward to those the most.
All right, Frye.
For all you literary listeners, I will continue to champion your place in film. We also have Harry Potter coming up here not too long from now, so I will continue to be your voice on the podcast.
And keep reading.
Retro Book
And keep
Roundtable
reading.
is coming.
And keep
All
reading.
right. And I just look forward to. It's been really exciting. For those who don't know, like the show grew a lot this year. Like the number of downloads went up, and the number of people reaching out to us has gone up, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been so fun to see it grow, and it's fun to just see the show blossom, and it's really fun to do it with you guys. So I'm just enjoying, getting on every other week or every week or just with my best friends and talking movies and having a good time and making me love the movies that I love all the more. So thank you, everybody, for listening. Remember, all the lords, ladies, and knights of the Retro Movie Roundtable, we invite you to reach out to us. We want to hear from you. So please do rate and review us on iTunes. Like, that's the number one place that's going to help the podcast get noticed. So there's people who love movies and they like podcasts, but they don't know what to listen to. And if you go and rate this, it'll help connect them to the Retro Movie Roundtable. And that's the number one thing you can do to help us out. And it's free. Even if you don't have an Apple account, just use your email. You can make one. It's really easy. Big help. Give us a like on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at @movie_retro, and email us at retromovieroundtable@yahoo.com. As always, thank you for listening. Be good to each other and watch more movies. Brian?
You've proven you can rule yourself. Now you must learn to rule others, something that none of your ancestors learned.